Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. This is going to sound like deja vu, but I promise you it maybe kind of is. For those of you who are new here, hello. For those of you who've been here for a while, you know there's a company called MicroStrategy. They were one of the most popular companies within the cryptocurrency space. Basically because a number of years ago, it's been about 4 years ago at this point, announced that they actually liked crypto. And I know that sounds like normal now when you hear BlackRock and Fidelity, etc., who are in the market. But a couple of years ago, everyone treated us as if we were some kind of monsters. There were a lot of rich people, millionaires and billionaires, who always spoke quite hyper negatively about the cryptocurrency Bitcoin space. This guy named Michael Saylor kind of pops out of nowhere and starts talking about the benefits of Bitcoin. Everyone was like, yeah, benefits of Bitcoin. And then he goes, I think we're going to buy some Bitcoin. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're going to buy some Bitcoin. And I think their initial purchases, were roughly around 10 to 15,000 Bitcoin, which is also a lot. Don't be confused by any means to think that only 10 to 15,000 Bitcoin is nothing. But it, is kind of the comparison when you hear it to the 300,000+ that BlackRock and Fidelity are currently holding from their ETF, regardless. So they continued to accumulate over the last couple of years, but became famouser when they announced how they were going to be acquiring this Bitcoin. And it still boggles the mind to this day how this is actually even a thing. They said that they were buying up Bitcoin, and it was usually in spurts of a couple hundred, a couple whatever here, 250. And they said, we need more. So they announced that they were going to be taking out debt against the company in the form of something called a convertible senior note. And this was, I think, the first time, it must have been 2021 or something like that. And that was in the amount of, I believe, 300,000. And then that 300,000 ballooned to 350 and 400. And eventually they got it to the point where they were taking out $500 million worth of debt against the company to buy Bitcoin. And then we heard about the purchase a couple of weeks later, and the Bitcoin price actually went up because everyone was like, oh snaps, they did it. Michael Saylor then became, once again, like a bit of a celebrity and kept on announcing. He was at every single Bitcoin event. For those of you who don't know, there are seasonal Bitcoin events literally all around the world. They're in New York, they're in Dubai, they're in Miami, you name it. There's always a Bitcoin event happening just around every single or every other month. And he was always going to them talking about it. He wanted to buy more, and everyone's like, yeah, okay, see if you can do it again. And then the next time they announced all over again that they were also going to be taking out another $500 million, and everyone was like, oh, that's a lot of money. They bought all the Bitcoin. And I think once or twice from other things that they're doing behind the scenes, they announced that they basically had paid off a portion of the other debts that wouldn't have to be paid back for another 7 or so years. And everyone was like, okay, quite impressive. That got us to them announcing that they eventually wanted to buy all the Bitcoin in the world. You might remember I had a video months, maybe half a year back, and I was like, oh, yay, that's great for the public. Because we found out that Michael Saylor doesn't like Bitcoin. He loves it. He's like the top of the charts for like a Bitcoin maximalist. And he says he wants himself and his company MicroStrategy to basically own all the Bitcoin in the world. That's kind of their goal. But I think that's probably the goal for a lot of other companies as well. So upon hearing all of that, I was like, this is when, you might remember, if you don't, that means you weren't here. This is around the time when Bitcoin was around like 34,000 or something like that. And I began to lightly tell all of you in videos, it might be time to reevaluate your personal portfolios to see if you also wanted to acquire more Bitcoin, because there was not a lot left. And you see where we currently are right now. So 3 weeks ago, from the time of me making this video, MicroStrategy was also in the news before, and they announced that they had gotten up, I think they had gotten up to 190,000 Bitcoin, which is like also a lot of Bitcoin for one company to hold. And then I think they purchased another 3,000 Bitcoin somewhere randomly there as well. Logically enough, The 3,000 Bitcoin purchase didn't make waves, similar to the we have 190,000 Bitcoin news, just logical. So they came back into the news again and announced that they were going to be trying to raise, I believe, $400,000 to be able to buy more Bitcoin. I believe we went over that news. I'm not really 1,000% sure. That 400 million then actually became 500 million, and then that became 600 million, and that was the final number that we as the public received as to how much money they were going to have in debt in the form of convertible senior notes to take out debt against the company to be able to buy more Bitcoin. So now we found out that according to a filing with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, MicroStrategy, between the 26th of February until the middle of March of this year, actually, funny. So the 400,000 became 500, became 600,000. That 600 million actually ballooned into $821.7 million in cash that the company ended up using to actually buy more Bitcoin. And they ended up buying another 12,000 Bitcoin, just the company alone. It says, additionally, MicroStrategy recently completed an offering of convertible senior notes due in 2030. So they have essentially 5.5 years to be able to pay off that debt, raising $821.7 million with funds. The latest acquisition, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings are now 205,000 Bitcoin, acquired for in total $6.9 billion. MicroStrategy is famous not only for having acquired Bitcoin, but also for having made money off of it. I know it sounds, well, of course, but it sounds nonsensical when you compare to the other news that we've gotten before. Any other news years ago in the cryptocurrency space about acquisition was either like, oh, that's not really happening, a gigantic question mark, or kind of like hyper speculation. So we would hear, I mean, if you can find the old videos as well. This was like 2018, 2019, that we had news that BlackRock was already in the cryptocurrency space. But a lot of people seem to not believe things if there are no filings, if there's nothing with the SEC, if you can find nothing on a website, or the people from BlackRock aren't explicitly standing on stage saying, we just bought more Bitcoin. A lot of people, for some reason, don't believe it. So MicroStrategy was one of the very first times that we saw like Bitcoin purchases like in mass. We'd heard before, and we had seen before, that there were tons of rich people talking about that they loved Bitcoin, but it was never like a number to it. We found out years ago, because I don't know why the Winklevoss twins, they announced, I think it was 2013, 2014, publicly, that they held over, I think, 1% of all Bitcoin, and people did the numbers, and they were like, oh, the Winklevoss twins hold over 200,000 Bitcoin. Why you would ever, also side note, don't ever tell people how much Bitcoin or crypto or anything you have. You can tell them that you're in the market, but once again, you would never, I mean, even your friends. Do you have friends who you've hung out with for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you see them, you tell them how much money you have in your bank account? It just doesn't make any logical sense. But yeah, back to the topic at hand. MicroStrategy has bought more Bitcoin. They said they're going to do it again. For some reason, and I don't know why, Michael Saylor has been like a huge advocate of Bitcoin. And every time that they purchase Bitcoin, he basically announces that they're never selling. He has no intention of selling. They might be used at some point. He believes that Bitcoin is going to go between $1 million to $100 million per coin. See, the general idea being is he won't have to cash out of his coins, because he'll simply be able to use them. Like, you can already use Bitcoin kind of everywhere to pay for things, but if in the future everything is priced in Bitcoin, according to Michael Saylor, well, therefore you don't really have to cash out. He's going to be using fragments of what he had before. Because I mean, if Bitcoin's at 60 something, 70,000 something right now, and it goes to like 10 to 15 million dollars, you understand, like fragments of fragments. Yeah. It sounds like deja vu, but it's not, because they continuously buy, and he has said once again, he has no intention of selling. He only wants to buy more. And I assume this is part of the frenzy of us seeing what's happening because of the ETF market. As they're buying up all the Bitcoin, MicroStrategy also wants to do the same. And also keep in mind, these are the companies who are willing who are willing to tell us that they're actually doing this. A lot of people forget that just because it's not happening directly in front of you in the news doesn't mean that it's not happening everywhere else. We know that all these companies and countries are also buying Bitcoin. Yeah, I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.